Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with nutritionist Ilana Muhlstein, author of Love the Food That Loves You Back, 100 recipes that serve up big portions and super nutritious food. So, Ilana, so glad to talk to you today. And by the way, I love that title, Love the Food That Loves You Back, because we love food. So why wouldn't we want it to love us back?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of, food-like products out in the world that really don't, that people associate with comfort foods, but really just lead you overall not feeling great, not in the best state of your health. So, as someone who's a registered dietitian, but also loves delicious, large volumes of yummy food, I knew I had to, kind of cut the noise, so to speak, in the world and show people that really good food can taste really good too.
Right. Because it doesn't have to, it's sort of like when you eat healthy food, you feel better,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
right?
I had to redefine comfort food for myself as someone who was morbidly obese as a kid, and realize that comfort food is genuinely the food that makes you feel satisfied while eating it and afterwards. And if it makes you, feel good during, but then you feel horrific a few hours later or even a few days later, months later, and years later, it's not necessarily the goal. So this is really, opening people to changing their mindset in the way they eat their food and their relationship with food and take care of themselves.
I love that. And you started to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it directly. So, how did you become you? What led
Yeah.
you on this path?
As a really young kid, I started seeking food as a form of comfort. My parents got divorced when I was only 4 years old, and we did grow up in the Shabbat framework. And I would only go to synagogue just to get all the candy associated with it. And I would go to all birthday parties, really just focused on all the pizza and ice cream and cake associated with it. And I was definitely over fixated with food, and food was definitely controlling me more than I was controlling it. And it was a really unhealthy place to be, both in my mind and my body. And at 8 years old, my doctor, already concerned about my health and where it was going, actually sent me to weight loss camp, a fat camp. And I went in the summer and had to take before pictures and after pictures and work out all day and get pre portioned meals and lose 30 pounds, only to gain it all back and more the school year afterwards. So, what I did was just return to camp, lost weight, and then came back to school, gained it all back and more. And this was a vicious yo yo dieting cycle that I repeated for longer than I care to admit right now. It was like 7, 8 years of this just yo-yo dieting mindset that was really destructive and really unproductive. So going into high school, I decided I needed to change my mindset. I needed a new way. And I had to figure out a plan that would work for me and my lifestyle. Because at the time, all the dietitians were telling me small portions, chicken should be the size of a deck of cards and so forth. And you shouldn't add any butter or salt to your vegetables and all these things that are not enjoyable and not sustainable. And at that point, I started realizing, you know what? I'm snacking on buttered popcorn at night. Buttered broccoli is not going to be the problem. And by making a few small swaps, it started making a huge impact on not just my weight loss results, but how I felt, my confidence, my energy, and so forth. So I continued losing weight with my unique method and perspective throughout high school. And going into college, I realized, already down 50 pounds on my own, I actually want to make a career of this. I became a registered dietitian and got my master's degree in nutrition, started lecturing weight loss seminars at UCLA, turned my weight loss seminars at UCLA into a program called the To Be Mindset. And now there's over 300,000 people around the world learning the program and loving it. Thankfully, it turned into a book. And the first book, You Can Drop It, is all about my weight loss approach, how I did it, how thousands other people lost weight, how you can do it too. But I really needed a cookbook with all the pictures and just so many more recipes to supplement the lifestyle. And that's what my new book, Love the Food That Loves You Back, is all about.
That's quite an incredible story. And I love people who take their challenges and, get through it and then use what they discovered to help others. So definite kudos to you for doing that. What are let's help people. So what are some things because a lot of people say cooking is overwhelming. It's just so
Yeah.
much easier to
Mhm.
dial for dinner. And I used to be that person. I am a reformed now cook, and now I'm like obsessed with cooking, but in the good way. So, what is it? How can you help people sort of change their mind frame to how much easier it is to prepare healthy food?
Yeah, I will say that I totally know lots of people and was myself one of those people who wanted to dial for dinner. So, to help people out at the start of their weight loss journey or along their weight loss journey when things are busy and tough and you don't want to cook, I actually do have a healthy meal delivery service that I'm very excited to say is now kosher in Los Angeles. So, it's called Ilana Meals. If you ever want to order meal delivery, but you want it to be lean proteins, not high in sodium, low in net carbs, good for you, and super tasty, I have you covered with Alana meal, which is awesome. But when it comes to being intimidated in the kitchen, I always encourage people to, tiptoe into it because slow and steady, you really become more experienced and a lot more confident in the kitchen. In honor of the release of my new cookbook, I have a Instagram story series going where I'm showing people really the basic cooking 101. It's saved in my highlights. If someone wants to go to my Instagram page now, it's at the top of it. It says cookbook, and I have a lot of just basic 101 cooking tips. And I realized in there that there really are some tips I learned early on, like even in my teenage years from the Food Network or, chefs I went to cooking demos of and so forth, that really made a huge difference. So I'll share some that just crossed my mind right now. One is good knives make the biggest difference. I was just trying to cut a bell pepper for my salad. And one, it's dangerous because it can slip and you cut yourself. But two, it just makes you feel like this is such a hurdle and it's so tough. And a good new sharp knife that cuts into everything so quickly will help you cut the time in half in making a salad and everything else. So a good knife, it doesn't have to be expensive. There's some really good knives out there. Now they make the ones that they're like colorful and they're really sharp on Amazon, and it just makes a huge difference in the kitchen. Other things that are helpful are sheet pans, some big, large sheet pans that you can get on sale at even TJ Maxx or Ross or Costco that you can just throw lots of veggies on and roast a bunch of vegetables at the same time is very helpful. My cookbook is going to be everyone's holy grail saving grace because it's so easy. This cookbook, I'm not saying this will be for all my cookbooks in the future. Maybe they'll get more technical with time, but this first book, Love the Food That Loves You Back, is like basic. I don't think there's one recipe that has more than like 8 ingredients. Most of them are in that 5 ingredient ish range. They all are quick, they're easy, and they're for everyday cooking that you want to just enjoy to hit your weight loss goals, improve your wellness, and just get satisfied and have good energy day to day. So it's also about following a good recipe. And I'd say another tip is shortcuts. A lot of people are intimidated by shortcuts. Shortcuts are the best. There's no blame, shame, or guilt in a bottled dressing, a store bought marinara, pre shredded cabbage or lettuce or carrots, like anything that could help you save some time in the kitchen is helpful. Rotisserie chicken in place of cooking your own chicken. Like I'm a big fan of those things. I don't think that there's any blame, shame, or guilt in using a good shortcut. I think when people think that everything has to be so gourmet and so homemade, it actually just halts them for trying. And it just, makes them want to pick up the phone and dial takeout because they don't feel like there's a middle ground. And there absolutely is one.
Okay, so I have to ask about the rotisserie chickens because I'm aren't they like full of salt?
So they definitely pump rotisserie chickens with like a saltwater solution. And that's because if salt retains fluid. That's why when we eat a lot of salty food, we get bloated because we're retaining a lot of water. So the same thing is what they're doing to the chickens. They're basically basting them and inserting in them like lots of salt water, like soaking them in salt water. So they retain their moisture, they retain their juiciness. So rotisserie chickens definitely tend to be higher in salt. When I use them in a recipe, and I don't want to cook my own chicken like in a salad or something, I will typically use less salt in the dressing less salt and other ingredients to help balance it out there.
Okay, so there are workarounds to everything, and
Yes.
I love that. First of all, the knives, definite, because you don't know until you start to hopping with the sharp knife that you've been suffering forever because you
Suffering.
never right.
I can't believe how much I just suffered and struggled making the salad. It was such a joke. These are knives I've had for over a decade since I got married, and I keep sharpening and sharpening them. And I think it might be time to just get a new set. I'm going to try sharpening it again, but sometimes making a small investment into good kitchen tools actually saves a lot of money in the long run in, takeout and so forth.
Well, and also investing the time in cooking will save you a lot of, a health heartache, right? Because you know exactly what you're putting into your body.
Totally. And I definitely share notes within the cookbook about things that can be prepped in advance. And you could always double a recipe to make it in bulk, whether it could freeze well or not. So it's always a good idea. Every time I make a salad dressing, I always make double or triple the recipe that it calls for because we typically don't want the salad dressing just for that day. You would be very happy to have that salad dressing last the next couple of days or whole week. So my Caesar dressing that's in the cookbook, that's something that I make in large servings, so I always have it on hand.
So, what is your absolute favorite thing to make? And can you share a recipe?
Sure. It's so funny because the idea of sharing one recipe, it seems daunting. There's like over 100. They're all so yummy and delicious. I'll say my kids are obsessed with the chicken chop. That's the dinner they want every night for dinner. I love all the craveable veggies. I have a whole series on sexy salads in the book that are amazing. I'll say one recipe that just came to the top of my mind. It's so easy. It's 5 recipes, but I call them my cream rolls. My husband always says that I could sell these in any bakery or cafe for like $8 a serving. And it's really cheap to make. It probably costs less than $1 to make a serving. So the ingredients are bananas, eggs, Greek yogurt. You could use dairy free Greek style yogurts if you are dairy free, or even silken tofu, and stevia and vanilla extract. It's really basic. If you want to make it chocolate cream rolls, you can add some cocoa powder. I think that's how we have it in the book. And we have suggestions on variations, but you essentially, it sounds so easy. You're not even going to believe me. But in a blender, you add 2 bananas and 4 eggs. So peel 2 bananas, crack in 4 eggs, blend it in the blender, and then pour it into a small sheet pan and bake it. And when you bake this mix of banana and egg, it literally turns into like a sheet pan of pancakes. That's how it looks. And then if you spread all over it a combination of the Greek yogurt mixed with the cocoa powder and the stevia and vanilla extract, it whips into this delicious, like chocolatey, creamy filling. And you just spread that all over the sheet pan of pancake and you roll it up and slice it. And it becomes these like pinwheels of joy. And it ends up being a complete breakfast. It's high in protein, it's high in fiber. There's no added sugar, but it tastes sweet and satisfying. So it's bound to set you up for a really great day.
Ooh, I love that. Now, I have made the where you mix a banana and an egg and you pretend they're pancakes, and I've made those.
Yes.
This sounds like
Awesome.
it's like it's like 10 times better because it's got that
Yes.
extra thing and it's grab and go, or you can serve it
Totally.
for like
Yeah. You can
people.
grab and go. You can eat it and enjoy it. It's actually really good in the fridge the next day or even the day after. I even kept it as a loaf to be sliced up as a cake and I sold it for a bake sale. So for the school's bake sale. So it's really a yummy treat. And the added cream topping just gives you a nice boost of protein and satisfaction.
So, what do you think stops people from eating healthy? What is the top reasons for those
I
things?
think the number one reason is that people don't think it'll taste good, that they actually don't think that they could be satisfied by it. And then there's also a big insecurity where people don't think they can get full. A lot of people say, like, I like salads, but I'm still hungry afterwards. That's because it's not what I like to call a sexy salad. It doesn't have a protein added, it doesn't have a good like added fat like avocado in it or a good dressing in it. Doesn't have garbanzo beans or another fiber filled carbohydrate to make it more hearty and satisfying. So I think that those are usually the things that hold people back. They don't think it's gonna taste good, they don't think it's gonna fill them up.
Okay, and so your message is, of course it can. And of course it will,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, of course it can, of course it will, and you need to have an open mind. If you don't have an open mind, you're really just, it's like, they always say the mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open. Parachute's not gonna work if it stays closed. The same with your mind. If you keep believing that you're stuck and that weight loss has to be hard and that healthy food has to be unsatisfying, you're gonna remain in that stuck place. If you open your mind to getting the book, trying the recipes, looking at how easy they are, flipping through the pages, finding some the pictures are amazing, finding some that really scream out to you and make you feel like, that's interesting. Maybe I'll try it. And you do, I think you'll be pretty blown away.
Well, I feel like the recipe you shared is like a gateway recipe because it's something that's healthy and filling. It is
And
there
easy.
and is there any other sort of like gateway thing, something someone can try really easily? Just say, oh, I get it.
Yeah, I have a dairy-free cauli mash in the book that my daughter, who's a picky eater, will literally like gobble down. Really good meatballs in the recipe that go with that recipe. That's also super easy. You essentially just boil a whole head of cauliflower or boil the chopped up florets, and you just add a little bit of coconut milk and put it in a blender or use an immersion blender and add in, dry herbs like thyme or oregano, pinch of salt, black pepper, and it literally becomes creamy, velvety, and delicious, like really good whipped mashed potatoes. But it's just a little bit lighter, higher in fiber, higher in antioxidants. It's just so satisfying. It's like the easiest way to eat a veggie.
It sounds super yum. What do you think is the connection people have with food? It is like so strong.
Absolutely. People's emotional connection to food is insanely strong. I am one of those people. I love food too. I have turned to food in bad times and good times and everything in between. I think the reason why we are so emotionally connected to food is that we are also just emotional beings. So our day starts rushed or stressed, turns to bored, turns to angry, turns to exhausted. And all these points also hit with breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time. So it's impossible to say you're not an emotional eater just because everyone has emotions and everyone eats throughout these times. So there is definitely a tie there. The goal for me was never to be one of these people who don't like food. There's obviously those very like robotic engineer types who feel like they could just drink one smoothie all day and they're fine. That's not the answer. A lot of people who are very fixated and overly obsessed or reliant on food for happiness or for comfort, they think that they should just be those people who don't care about food at all. And the truth is that's not necessarily the winning combination either. It's about having that healthy balance and relationship with food where, yeah, sure, some meals you're eating them just to get full, just to be purposeful and set you so like purposeful and set yourself up for success in the rest of the day and your energy. And then there's also times where you need a delicious, yummy meal to lift your spirit, make you feel satisfied, give you a sense of a hug. But it's, like I said, that food that you want to love you back. So, like, I just made a really yummy salad with a creamy dressing because it doesn't just have to be lemon juice or vinegar. It could be creamy and yummy. And I added Parmesan cheese. And, I'm all about toppings and making it feel good because if it tastes boring or it tastes just like something you can tolerate, you're probably going to give up pretty quickly. So it has to be something that you actually enjoy, that actually makes you feel good. That's not just something you can tolerate, but something you can crave so that you will want to keep eating vegetables and healthy food for the rest of your life.
I love that. It's like exercise. Find an exercise that you enjoy doing so you will actually do the
Stick with it.
exercise, right? Find the food that you enjoy eating that's got that a healthy during bed, and you're just set.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes it just takes one, two, three recipes to have something click in your mind and have you feel like for the first time, you're not only going to lose this weight, but you're going to be able to keep it off. And I always tell people, don't underestimate the power of a new recipe. Sometimes when I have clients who feel stuck and frustrated with their weight loss and they want to talk about all of these things, I have to change the whole conversation to just a new recipe because I realize that they're getting in a state of like a rut. And a mental rut needs to be always a little like poked and excited by something new, by something exciting, by something different. And sometimes a recipe is that thing. Sometimes it's a cabbage steak or, a really good slaw or zoodles or a yummy spaghetti squash bowl that kind of takes you out of that place of feeling stuck and into a place of thriving.
Well, don't underestimate the power of a new recipe. If that's not your tagline, it totally should be because it really
I
hits
say it all the
all
time.
ways, all the points. Well, thank you so much, Ilana. Where can people learn more about you and your book and everything?
Yeah, definitely my website, ilanamulstein.com, which is a catch-all, but I have over 2 million followers on TikTok. I have over 500,000 followers on Instagram. I have over 200,000 followers on YouTube. So find me on the social platforms as well because I'm there and active all the time.
Wonderful. And we will have those links available as well. So thank you, Ilana, so much for sharing your enthusiasm for food that loves you back. And thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube and or your favorite podcast platform. And you can go to jewishjournal.com/podcast to get recipes like the yummy rolls. I can't wait to try. And also read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Love food. Let the food love you back. Until next time, bon appetit.